Hello, everyone's Forest Focus after a miserable morning from the nightmare evening before. A week ago, we were all reflecting on a good point against Real Betis, with games against Sunderland and Midtjylland at home to come. Now it's hard to argue with anyone that feels Ange Postecoglou's doomed and Nottingham Forest are in a mess. But will the pendulum swing back as quickly, or should we be focused on making sure the season isn't a total disaster? Christ, what an uplifting intro that is. Terrible. Mikey, Clarke, how are you this afternoon?
Magnificent, never been happier. No, I'm all right. Yesterday was pretty tough. I'm sure we'll get into it, but no, I'm fine this morning. Thanks.
Good. Simon Bristow, I started last night's stream with an apology to Sam Collins, our guest, a hospital pass of a show. The same apology to you. You've not been dealt a good hand here, but how are you?
I'm very good, thank you, Matt. Nice to be making my once a quarter appearance. I assume when everyone else is just completely fed up of talking about Forest, you get to me. And as I said to you yesterday, I'll come on if we win. But I felt too bad this morning to not come on. So yeah, brilliant. Can't wait.
Good. Well, I was thinking, Simon's going to say no. Who else can I ask? So when you said yeah, all good, no problem, I was quite relieved. Right, we'll talk about last night. We'll talk big picture. We'll preview the Newcastle game, and we'll mention a few other bits away from the on-field stuff at the end. Simon, kick us off on last night. General thoughts on what we witnessed. You guys were in the ground. I saw it on TV. What did you make of it?
Can I start with like a few little bits that had kind of happened around the game and probably worth mentioning? I thought, obviously, everyone who's helped out with the Forza display, it was brilliant. It always is. Huge team of people made it happen and have worked for a long time to get it into place. So as ever, well done to everybody. It looked great. I know Forest have been through a lot recently as well, with UEFA coming in to take over their first event at the City Ground, and it's put a lot of pressure on their team as well. And I will happily admit I'm not a huge fan of light shows, and when we go around the country and we see them happening, I usually hate them. But I thought Forest got it pretty spot on last night. It was pretty good, and it kind of helped with the whole build up and the atmosphere. The other really random thing, and I can't believe I've ever been discussing this around football, but whoever managed to capture the deer in the lower Bridgeford stand on 70 or 80 minutes and successfully get it out of the ground without it killing itself, hats off to you. And I understand from Forest that the RSPCA took it away and have taken care of it. But utterly bizarre occurrence at a football match. And then a quick nod. I thought Midtjylland were brilliant. Fair play. You've come here. You've played really well. You've set up really well. You've done a complete job on us. Probably a lot to be said for a nice, stable football club that's been well run for some time and has been building to a place that they now find themselves in when they're qualifying for Europe year in, year out, and are really good at it. And then we get on to us, and it was pretty disappointing. Oh. And I'll probably leave it there for now.
I was ready for a Blackburn or Clarke-esque monologue about how it was disappointing. We'll get into that, obviously. Yeah, I was seeing the chat as well, talking Reds. A squirrel on the pitch at half time. Stewards just stood there and watched it, which was quite strange. Right. Yeah, well, it covered more ground than some of our players, probably. Mikey, elaborate a bit on last night, and then we'll get into where we're at. Just talk about last night from your point of view.
Yeah, Sam summarised it really well. There was some big positives before the match actually started. I kind of agreed that the display was one of, if not the best that I've ever seen. So much work must have gone into that. I appreciate how difficult it is as well. You know, Greg there for hours and hours putting it up with the mates and stuff, and you know, fair play to you guys. It was fantastic. The light show I'm not a big fan of, but it was all right. It was good. The music built up, Mulligan tie. We were ready to go. Everybody was buzzing. First European night at home for almost 30 years. And then it went really bad after that. So, yeah, as fans, did we do the best we could, certainly for the start? Yeah, I think we did. But yet again, we are treated to whatever that was in terms of a performance. I'm starting to get really nervous watching Forest now. It's reminding me of the first season when we came up the basics don't seem to be in play anymore. And by the basics, I mean winning your duels, defending set pieces properly, just basically completing those 1-2 passes and doing the basics on the football pitch, which allows you to grow into a game and allows you to play the expansive football, which I think we all want to see, or we all thought we might see. With this manager, it's been a really tough 3 or 4 weeks. We're in a bit of trouble. I'm sure we're going to go into it, but I don't really know what the solution is. I was gutted at the end, not just because of the result, but because how do you turn that first 5 minutes into that last 5 minutes? You know, the just the thought process and the whole outpouring of emotion with the fans at the start was brilliant. I had people messaging me this morning saying they were crying at the start of that game because they were so emotional. And what we wanted to see was a performance on the pitch and a plan and a tactical plan which matched that emotion. And what we got was the complete opposite. So you've gone from the start of the game where everybody's buzzing and up for it and it's loud and it's noisy and you're thinking we're back, to 90 minutes later, people chanting for the manager to go and people chanting for the ex-manager. It was just absolutely baffling. And we need to try and dissect and understand not only what went wrong, but more importantly, what they're going to do to put it right. And I know people at a certain end of the scale are thinking it's gone too far, we need some sort of change. And there are other people saying we've got to back him, he's been here 5 minutes. I don't know what the answer is, but what I want to see, sorry, it's a long answer to this, but what I want to see now is a bit of leadership and a bit of direction. So I don't mean when you're doing press conferences looking down, not looking, that doesn't fill me with confidence. I want to see a bit of, do you know what? It's been a really, really tough 3 or 4 weeks, but this is a plan. This is what we're going to do. We're going to stick together as a group. We're going to go up to Newcastle and scrap and fight and try and get something out of that game. And then we're going to have the international break to work on a few things. And we're going to come back against Chelsea and give them a good kicking. I need to feel that confidence from everybody, from the owner to the managers to the fans, because at the moment, this is only going to end one way. And are we really going to be a football club that has 3 managers in a month? I'm nervous. And yesterday, like I said, I'll end my answer here. It went from the sublime to the ridiculous. Magnificent that first half an hour before the game. And we end the game like that. And I left after the 3rd goal. And I never leave a football match early because I just didn't want to say something that would get me into trouble because I just felt absolutely devastated. And I hope that summed it up. And I'm sure we'll go into the specifics, but that was not good last night. And it followed up from an awful performance against Sunderland as well. So they need to sort it out, Matt.
I don't mind the looking down thing. If I'm more concerned, like, it's how he's addressing players in the dressing room is what concerns me. If he can lift them and raise them, so he can talk down to the media if he wants. But yeah, it wasn't his very deflated post-match interview yesterday. I suppose 3 weeks ago, aka a lifetime ago, when Ange was appointed, one of the regular commenters, Pat, said the club's in turmoil, and I said no, we're not, because we still, we're at the start of the season, we've got a great potential squad, all that kind of stuff. It feels like Pat might be right now, because it's hard to disagree with him where we're at. How are you feeling, Simon, then about where we're at? Especially, I think one of the sentiments is, Mikey said, how did it go from here to there? Or there to here? How did it go from the ending last season, finishing 7th, a lot of context around that, to where we are now? It's unravelled so quickly. How do you feel about where the football club's at the moment?
Big question. So I feel like there's been an awful lot of noise around Forest for a good few months now. End of last season, lots of noise because we didn't quite get over the line to get into the Champions League, but we did qualify for Europe. But that kind of felt like a disappointment. And so that's where the noise started. And then over the summer, you've got all the noise around Europa League, Conference League. Have we written letters to UEFA? Palace fans kicking off at us. So that's then another element of noise. And then you've got Nuno pops up with creating his own noise by complaining about signings and having a moan about Edu and having a moan seemingly about the owner as well. And so you've got a whole load more noise just at the start of the season. And then Nuno gets sacked, more noise. Ange comes in, more noise. Ange doesn't do well, more noise. And it just feels like this noise has been going on for ages now. And obviously the results, every time that we lose, every time that we're chucking away a game like we did against Swansea, or we're getting beaten by teams that we believe that we should be beating, like Burnley and Sunderland and Midtjylland, the noise just continues. And we can't get out of this cycle at the moment. And Mikey just mentioned the word nervous, and everyone is nervous. I found myself bouncing from foot to foot all game last night, and I'm never usually like that. I usually stand there and a lot more kind of composed with it all, but I felt nervous. So if I'm feeling nervous, and like I say, I'm not usually a nervous character, you can see why 50%, 75%, 100% of the home fans in the stadium are nervous. That's then emanating onto the pitch, and all the players are nervous. And you can see little things that they're maybe like over trying to do things, that extra pass, or they feel like they should take someone on because people are shouting at them to do it, or they feel like they should have a shot because we need to score a goal, or they feel like they need to make an extra pass rather than having a shot because they don't want to take a shot because they're nervous it won't go in, and if it doesn't go in then everyone moans. So there's all of this kind of bubbling away, and the only way to solve this is to get some wins, and for some reason we just can't get out of this cycle at the moment. So where do I think we're at as a football club? I think we are in a remarkable position still. We had an incredible season last season. We've ended up qualifying for Europe. I was in Seville last week, and it was the best Forest trip I've ever had in my life. And I might, I probably will get to go to the other ones as well, and so I'll have those as well. But it might be the only season that I ever experienced as being in Europe. So from that perspective, we're in an incredible position. And we always talk about, oh, look where we were 4 years ago. And I'm a bit done with that. I think we need to move on from it. Yeah, we were rubbish 4 years ago, but now we're not. We've established ourselves. Now it should be about how do we maintain what we've established. And it's becoming a bit of a mess. And like I say, I think the only way out of it is wins. And I'm sure we're going to get onto what manager is going to get us those wins. I don't think it really matters. We've just got to win some football matches. And I think that narrative will start to turn. And if you remember last season, for 3/4 of the season, we were amazing and we won every week. And my wife said to me this morning, oh, last season was good for you because you won every week. It got a bit boring, didn't you? I was like, well, no, I'd happily go back to that now, to be perfectly honest. But at the end of the season, we were then rubbish for the final quarter. And so there's no reason that we haven't started the season rubbish for this first quarter. And the next 3 quarters could be great. But it's just how and when that change will happen that we start to change our fortunes around.
Let me just thank some people quickly. Mark Sowerby, Matt Wootton, Bonjute, and Ian Palin. Thank you guys for all signing up for membership. Really appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, this is sort of away from the team. I spoke yesterday for a little podcast next week about some community work the club are doing, and it's great. And lots of this feels like the club's in a good position, but everything revolves around results for the first team. And my worry is that this collapses and the rot set in, and it cascades from here very quickly, because it's the speed of the way the narratives changed from Seville, as Simon referenced, to now is very worrying. One win could change it. So if we can get a result against Newcastle, we're all feeling better. But I'm worried we're going to get absolutely tanked against Newcastle, and we'll come on to that.
I would add as well that the media and social media outside of Forest, we're our own little bubble, but everyone wants us to fail. Everyone has come to hate us a little bit because of the summer, and obviously you've got certain fan bases that hate us more than others. Fine, I understand why you have those feelings, but the media want us to fail. So every opportunity they're going to be poking the beast and being like, oh, look at Forest, it's not going well, or it's not going well for Ange. So there's that element as well, and every defeat, every game that isn't a win for Ange allows them to continue that narrative. And yeah, ultimately it comes down to we need to win some football matches. I'm not quite sure how we do that at the moment, but that's the only way to change this whole situation that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, I'll put before I throw it to Mikey, a comment here. A result just papers over the cracks. Quite possibly, very, very right. We need multiple results now. Teresa, thank you for signing up for membership. Very good of you as well. Mikey, we'll come on to Ange in 1 second. Where do you feel the bigger picture is of the football club before we talk about Ange?
Yeah, Simon articulates it really well. I'm still in the same headspace. I think we're still in a magnificent position, but it's just not working on the pitch at the moment for whatever reason. So a result will change the mood. You probably want a sustained period of improvement on the pitch, I think. And for me, it's not about scoring 3 or 4 goals. It's just about, like I said, doing the basics. We've let in 13 goals in 6 games. I mean, if you're letting in 2 goals a game, you're not going to win any football matches, are you? So I always remember after we got tanked under Nuno, I think it was at Bournemouth, and even when we lost the odd game 1 or 2-0, he always used to come out and say, clean sheets, we need to be compact, we need to be robust, we need to compete. And the next game after that, we were always better because they'd obviously worked on it during the week. I'm not one of these people that sang Nuno in or whatever yesterday. I'm not one of those people. He's gone. He's working in East London. Sod him for want of the better phrase. Thank you for what he did, but he's gone. But I think what I'm trying to say is the thought process and the mentality should be that, we're letting in too many goals, we're letting in too many soft goals, and it's putting additional pressure to try and get this more fluid attacking football working from minute 1. If you tighten up defensively, you only need 1 goal to win a football game. And I just wanted to see us do a little bit better. Can I just retract to one thing I said before, because I feel like I was a bit harsh? If that's Ange's body style to look down, that's absolutely fine. I didn't want to pick on him for that because everybody's different. The point I was trying to make is that when you're in a bad spell, whether it's a football team, business, in life, whatever, that's when your leaders step up. That's when you have to have a plan. That's when you have to have a bit of confidence and you have to exude a bit of, this is what we're going to do to turn it round. It's going to take a bit of time. Stick with us. I think a lot of people's frustration is we don't really see that. We're just keep being told things that this is how we're building towards. We're going to play this expansive football. Well, we might be, but if you're letting in 2 or 3 goals every game, you're not going to win any football matches. And we need to start winning football games. So all I want to see, basically, whether Ange stays or not, is just a bit of confidence. Just a bit of, this is how we're going to do it. This is what we're going to do. And I don't see that. It doesn't exude me with any confidence, basically, that this is going to flip and it's going to change. And somebody said to me last night, they're just going to keep losing games playing like this, Mikey. They're just going to keep losing. And it's really hard to say anything different because that's all we've seen, and I really hope I'm wrong. I'll be honest, right? My thoughts. I wouldn't have made this change in the first place, but we are where we are with it. I'm really struggling with it. I am really, really struggling with it. And I just hope that I'm wrong and we go to Newcastle and we're defensively resolute. And, the captains, and I say captains plural, the leaders in that group come out and say, stick with us. This is what we're about. Ange comes out and said, that was a bit better. We're going to work on it in the international break and we're going to come to Chelsea and give them a kick in. Just need a bit of that. Just need something to buy into, because all I saw yesterday was a team that's over trying, like Simon said, doesn't seem to have a plan of how to defend, and it looks a mess. It looks an absolute mess, and I'm really worried about it. So hopefully that's got across. Don't want to be negative. I'm just saying what everybody's been saying to me and what I've seen. And I watched the game back this morning as well, because obviously you watch it at the game, you have a different perspective. I like to reflect and look, and it's even worse watching it on telly. That 3rd goal was a disaster. I don't know whether you want to go into it, Matt, but I'll try and be a bit more positive for the rest of the podcast, I promise. But I can't come on here and lie and say we'll be all right, because I don't think we will unless things change.
I think being negative is fine. There's no reason not to be negative. It's all. There's no point finding fake bullshit positives just for the sake of it. If people feel negative, then people should feel negative about it. We'll go to an ad break in a second. We'll talk one more thing. Looking at the game a little bit, Simon. I mean, I'll throw in, I thought the Murillo stuff was a shambles, and I thought that was really weak management from Ange. Should have taken him off. But the general pattern of play, is that as much of a concern for you in the sense that we quite clearly cannot defend a set piece to save our lives? I think we conceded at least 4 goals under Ange from set pieces, 3 in the last 2 games. But also, do you see in the attacking play cause for hope, or did that look like the much vaunted Ange ball? Like, are you seeing anything in that sense as well to give you reason for belief?
I mean, I'll caveat this heavily with I know nothing about football. I love being a fan. I love going to games. I obviously love my little photo project that people probably know me for. But when it comes to tactics and stuff like that, it's a different world. And I've been lucky enough to work around sport my entire life. And you get to that kind of elite mindset and level of sport. And it honestly, we all think that we know what's going on and how to do it, but it's unbelievable, the levels of stuff. So I don't really feel like I can comment on tactics and stuff like that with too much clarity. I will say, like, a friend of mine said to me last night, this isn't what I thought Ange ball was. Like, I thought when you're 3-1 down, you've got 5 players on the halfway line and you've got 1 defender, and it's like, well, just go. So is Ange being honest to himself? Are we implementing his true style at the moment, or are we caught in a bit of a middle ground because of that lack of confidence thing? Yeah, I mean, conceding the 2 set-piece goals when all I'd heard about on podcasts this week was Midtjylland are the best in Europe at set pieces. Now, ultimately, if they're the best in Europe, they're going to be really good at it, and you could try and defend it to your highest possible level, and eventually they're still going to score. But it just felt a bit like we've conceded 2 really soft goals there. So I just don't know, Matt, if I'm honest. I'm really sorry. I think that the one thing I would say as well is I don't think we're playing very well. And it probably goes back to that point around the confidence that the players have got. And you throw into that implementing a new system. And I'll put that's before Ange as well. Clearly, over the summer, we wanted to implement a new strategy and a new approach. And we are having a lot more of the ball, but we're not being very effective with it. Whereas last season, we had very little of the ball, but we were very effective with it. Now, that's probably a longer term strategic shift that the club want to implement, that you can't replicate last season year after year after year, in their opinion. Like I say, I'm no expert, but that's what they've probably looked at and thought, you can't get away with that. Sooner or later, it will go completely wrong. If you want to be long-term and strategic and set yourself up for 5-10 years, you've got to transition to this style of football, which is having more of the ball and being a bit more attacking. And I guess we're still in that limbo of trying to do that. And it at the moment, especially last night, it looked horrible. We didn't play very well. I think the games prior to that, we have been all right. I'm not saying we've been brilliant, but we have been okay. And there have been halves, 60 minutes here and there where we thought, this looks really good, this is exciting. And then Swansea, Betis kind of slips away and the result doesn't quite be as good as we'd hoped. Going back to the point you put up on the screen about papering over the cracks, we could have won last night, right? Those 2 offside goals from Chris Woods could have stood. And yeah, I absolutely agree. That result, if we'd come away from there 4-3, would have papered over cracks. And we all would have been like, God, we got away with one there because we were woeful, but somehow we've managed to beat them. But the thing is, if we had done that, and I know it's buts and maybes, but if we had done that, suddenly there's that little bit more confidence. And that's where we're at. We're at that low ebb at the moment, and we need a bit of confidence from somewhere to the next game be a bit more confident and everyone a bit more settled, and the players not do that extra thing that they don't need to do, or take the shot when they should take it. And then we might get another result and another result and another result, and it builds. At the moment, we're going downwards with every result. It makes it more and more intense, more pressure, more difficult. So I'm not sure if I've answered your question very well, but there you go.
Well, people in the chat talking about Ange ball quite a lot. I mean, Ange ball's not a thing that we're seeing at the moment. I think we saw bits of it against Betis. That was great. Burnley, bits of it. Even Swansea, bits of it. We should have scored 6 goals in that game. Just the last 2 games, and especially last night, I didn't think we saw any attacking structure apart from the first until they scored, really. Watched last night's post-match show with Sam Collins, who was captain of Forest B team, played for them until last season. He's really good on the tactical side of it, but he was struggling to see what we were doing. So many long range shots and low percentage chances. And I think a lot of that comes down to confidence, as Simon was saying. Right, you can watch the Newcastle game at the Trent Navigation. It is on TV. And we'll preview that shortly, but I do want to talk about what we do with Ange. But let's have a 50 seconds of happier times and the match day experience at the Trent Navigation.
Hey up me duckies, a quick rundown of match days at the Big Shed. We're open from 10, serving full English breakfast, teas, coffees, and believe it or not, beers. Father's Footy Quiz is followed by the lunchtime kickoffs, and the outdoor kitchen is fired up from midday, serving sourdough pizzas, burgers, hot dogs, pies, and sausage rolls. Lovely. Pints start at £4. We have a great selection of cask ales and lagers to lubricate the vocal cords for a bit of a sing-song before the game. After the match, we've got some great DJs and live bands booked. So get your send down to the Trent Nav. Win or lose, we're having a booze. And if we draw, we'll have some more.
I suppose, Mikey, the big question is what you do now with the manager. A lot of fans wanted him sacked, last night, probably some at half-time. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it should, because you're just writing off the Newcastle game, to be honest. But if we lose to Newcastle, we go into an international break and, the tide turns even more. As we sit here right now, does the manager have to go? Even though he's only been here for 7 games, as mad as that sounds, before he came in, and, as a neutral, you'd think that was crazy. But when you see what you're seeing, do you think if we lose to Newcastle, that has to be it for you or not?
Oh, God, what an awful question. Blimey, how do I answer that? I just want to see a plan and a bit of fronting up this week. So Newcastle, the next game, I just need to see that level of confidence from all the leaders at our football club, and that includes our manager. I'm not getting that at the moment. So you've got 2 choices to make. Do you either pull the trigger now and just say, actually, it was a mistake, thank you, we'll get somebody else in, or do you stick by and say, can we get that reaction? Can we get that reaction? I think they'll do the latter. I can't see them pulling the trigger now. I certainly think it'll get the Newcastle game, because it'd probably just be mad, because we play them in a day, 2 days. It'll just be mad. Whether they do it at the international break probably weirdly depends on how we do on Sunday. Like if we get tanked 6 or 7-0, then I think we all know what's going to happen. If it's a spirited display with a bit of backbone in it, then it probably gets a bit longer. I think where my head's at is, I'll just say it again, it wouldn't have been my choice at the start. I'm desperate for him to succeed, because that means Forest succeed. But I think sometimes you have to hold your hands up and say maybe the fit isn't right. So I'm not saying, well, I am saying it. I'm just saying this myself. I think Sunday's really important. And it weirdly enough, I do think we'll lose at Newcastle, because I think not many teams will go there and beat them. Apart from the elite at the top of the league. For me, it's more about how we respond. So if we lose 1-0, but we fight and we scrap and we're a bit unlucky, weirdly, that'll give me a little bit of heart that we can have the international break and then come back and attack the next run of games. My worry is that we'll get tanked and they'll have to make that decision. And then we're back to square one. We are the club that had 3 managers in a month. I mean, absolute shambles, for want of a better phrase. I said when that advert was on, I just text Lindsay, my wife, downstairs. She's watching with her auntie, and I said, "Was that too negative?" And she said, "No, it was measured," which is good. So I don't mean to come across as negative, but I am genuinely concerned and genuinely worried. But do you know what? If you flip your mindset, if they do come to Newcastle on Sunday and show a bit of what the team season before last did, when they went up there and won 3-1, and they had that grit and there was a plan and it wasn't reckless and they were doing the basics right, then I'll take a really deep breath like everybody else and go, okay, cool. Have we turned the corner? Can we do something in the next few games? My worry is they won't, but this is where your leaders have got to step up. Your leaders have got to really step up now and show what they're about on the pitch and off the pitch. And it comes from the top. You know what I mean by that? It comes from the top. We need some clear direction. Because as Simon said, there's too much noise around this football club. It's causing uncertainty with the fans. This should be the best season some of us have ever had, being alive, being a Forest fan. But it started off shambolically. I can't think of a better word. It feels messy. It feels disjointed. We could easily be in the bottom 3 in 24 hours' time. It's nervous. So to answer your question, I know I've gone around the houses. I wouldn't do anything now, but I want to see a response, and I want to see some balls, for want of a better phrase. I want to see them front up and show us what they're all about at Newcastle, and then you take it from there.
It's fine to be negative. If you feel it's doomed, it's fine to say that.
I know, but I just want to find that balance where I don't want to come on and go, oh, Mikey's on, he's going to... I just want to say what everybody's been saying to me and what a lot of people are thinking. They know it's not right. They feel it in your gut. We've all watched Forest for years. We know something's not right, but we can't just keep sacking people every 5 minutes. It costs a bloody fortune. And then who else do we get in? I want them to turn it round. I want them to front up and show what we're about. As a club, as a city, we're better than this. We just need to see something.
That's it. Yeah, I've got a list of names of potential other managers. That's always the big thing. I think Mark's in our WhatsApp chat last night. Sacking Ange is half the problem. It's half the solution. The other half is what you do after that.
Yeah.
And we'll come on to some names. I mean, how do you feel about the manager, Simon? Is he a part of a bigger picture, and sacking him won't make any difference, or does it have to be done?
I think if you change the manager again now, you've got to go back to that point I made earlier about the strategic shift that we're trying to implement as a football club. So that's not just on the manager, right? That decision has been made with other people and by other people, and Ange is currently the person that's trying to implement that strategy for them. So if you're going to rip that up and completely change what we're going to do because it's not worked, and after 2 months, 3 months, whatever it's been, we're going to kind of say, no, we need to go back to what we used to do, then I think there's some other people within the organisation that probably need to be looked at as well. I think let's be clear that the owner will not be happy right now. We know what he's like, and quite rightly, he is not going to be a happy man, having spent all that money in the summer, having built this structure in place, when we all laughed at him on the council house balcony, he said we'd get us back into Europe, and he's managed to achieve that. And hats off to him for kind of leading the ship that has achieved that for the club. He's not going to be happy. He probably is also not happy because we're not happy, and quite rightly, the fan base is not happy. I get the anger that was shown last night. It's not personally how I go about things. I don't try not to get angry about football as best I can, because we'd be angry far too often. But I totally understand why people reacted in the way they did and sung what they sung. So, yeah, potentially a change of manager is a way of placating the fan base and making everyone who wants it to fail, or everyone who's really upset at the moment, you can make them a bit happier by saying, yeah, we got this one wrong, we'll hold our hands up, we're going to change the manager, and here's a new shiny toy for us to get excited about. And maybe that'll change things, maybe it won't. I think I left the ground last night thinking he wouldn't be manager this morning. We might hear any second that he's not, but it seems like he is. So I agree, he probably does get Newcastle. And I agree with what Mikey says. There's probably a scale of results that happen on Sunday. If we end up shipping 4 or 5 and play like we did last night and look dreadful, I don't see how he survives the break, which purely from he's only been here a month perspective is madness and crazy. But the results have not been good, and certainly the performance last night was not good. So you can understand why it would happen. I don't think it helps with all of the noise and the media agenda. It will just amplify that even further. So whoever a new manager that would come in, might come in, is going to be coming into an even greater, excuse my language, shit show of noise around Nottingham Forest. So it's not an easy environment to come into. You've got then a group of players that, as Mikey says, have gone through 3 managers in a month. And they started with Nuno and one approach, and then Ange's come in and slightly change of approach, but all I would assume with this guiding strategy of what we want to do. And then you've got a new guy who's like, oh no, we're going to do this. And maybe the club are even saying, right, rip up that strategy, just do whatever this guy needs, because we're in a bit of a mess and we need to get ourselves out of it. It's not good for players. So I think winning on Sunday would be preferable and looking really good. And then everyone can calm down. But do I think that's happening? I don't think anything will surprise me, to be perfectly honest, on Sunday. We might get beat by 5. We might get beat by the odd goal. We might win it. But I do think whatever happens will probably have a big impact on then what happens in the following 2 weeks of the international break and who the manager is.
I think the difficulty of the situation among so many is if you sack him, I'd say you sack him over the international break, that's an admission of a colossal failure of an appointment. You're on your third manager of the season in October after 11 games. I mean, that's laughingstock territory, sadly. So are the ownership and the owner who wanted this manager, I think it's fair to say, is he going to hold his hand up and say, actually, this was an error. We need to make a change before it's too late. We can still get a manager, and we'll look at some names of a profile that isn't, let's stay in the division, let's play some, Sean Dyche ball and just stay up. Are they going to do that? Or are they going to gamble, because this whole thing's been a gamble, and stick with him? And then maybe it gets better, maybe it carries on getting worse, and you get to the next international break, and you're really right in it then. We're only 6 games into the Premier League season right now. It's not catastrophic. The trend of performances is catastrophic, but only in 2 games. So the club is in a pretty monstrously difficult position here, because if they leave it too long, then you are in the position where you appoint an Allardyce type manager that gets you over the line, hopefully, and then you're restarting again. And that's the frustration, I think, for so many fans. It's so hard to get to a good position. It's 23 years hard to get to a good position, and it's really easy to rip it all apart and be where we are potentially now. It's not 3 weeks. There's way more pieces to the puzzle than just Ange Postecoglou. We've signed 13 players over the summer, very ambitiously, to build a squad to compete. We're playing European football. We changed the manager's style drastically. And I know, Mikey, you think it was too drastically. And I do think that's a big factor here. The whole run before you can walk, sprint before you can walk kind of notion of it was a very, very risky strategy. And I was cautiously optimistic and thought it might work. Right now, it looks like it's not going to work. And unless they do something very quickly, does it feel like the die's cast, Mikey, with the fans as well? Is that the other big factor, the Cooper to Leicester thing? Like,
yeah,
once the crowd goes like that, it is tough to turn it back.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So that's exactly what I'm thinking. So, you're on social media a little bit, and sometimes social media is a bit of a void, isn't it? It doesn't necessarily replicate in real life. I would say pleasantly surprised, was awfully surprised at the reaction when that third went in. That makes me feel like social media is quite a good barometer of what people are thinking. I think it's fair to say a lot of people didn't want this style and this manager at the start. Was I one of them? Maybe, although I probably wasn't vocal about it.
I don't think no one on this podcast said we want Ange Postecoglou to be the next manager. I think there's a perception that we've gone to bat for Ange. I think we've gone to bat for patience and time, but there's no one who has Ange Postecoglou at the top of their list. We'll talk about Silva and things like that, but is Silva going to leave Fulham for this?
No, do you know what it reminds me of as well? Is what's happening in Rangers at the moment with Russell Martin? I don't know whether anybody saw at the weekend that they scored in the last minute to go 2-1 up. The fans celebrated and then started singing Martin out. I'm not saying we're at that point.
No,
but we're definitely not that bad.
No, we're not that bad.
It is quite mad though. It just feels as if we're going to need more than one result to turn some people's mindsets around. And it feels like it's on a tipping point, on an edge, and it'll go one way or the other. And I'm not one to say it's all about one game, because the season's 38 games. In fact, our season's probably about 60 games now. but it genuinely does feel as if it's kind of now or never, which is mad because he's been here 5 minutes. But it was such a shift from where we were at. Some people haven't bought into it. We're not getting any confidence that it's going to change. Some people have already made their mind up. The only way, as Simon said quite rightly at the start, the only way to change it is to win some football games. However we do that, you're not going to win letting in 3 goals a game. That's my view. So you've got to go back to basics and defend properly. Sorry,
this is
Simon.
why I know nothing about football tactics, because I'd just be in the dressing room and be, come on, lads, just win. Like, come on, it's that simple, isn't it?
Right, I wish it were. Right, let's have a look at some alternatives themes. I did say, sack Ange is one half of the situation. The other half is who comes in next. Marinakis has no record of hiring managers in jobs. So I think Silva is probably for the birds, but you never know. And people will say Glasner and Iraola. Why would they leave their clubs right now to come to? This isn't a Forest thing, but there are clubs in doing well, and they'll be eyeing up really, really big jobs next. So I've got a list here taken from Transfermarkt of available coaches who are not in work, and they're sort of semi-realistic. These might work. These are doomed to failure, in my opinion. But these are sort of representative of the names that are out there. I'll just read them out. People who are listening or watching. Gareth Southgate, Luciano Spalletti, the former Napoli and Italy manager, Thiago Motta, who took Bologna to the Champions League, then had a rough time at Juventus, Marco Rosa, who took Leipzig to the Champions League and has had a lot of success in Germany, Erik ten Hag, I know people will laugh at that one, but I put it on because he is on that list, Erdin Terzic, who did well at Dortmund, I think he got into a Champions League final, Sean Dyche, Bruno Lage, the ex-Wolves and Benfica manager, Ralph Hasenhuttl, formerly of Southampton, and then went to the Bundesliga, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Michael Carrick, Rafa Benitez, and Danny Roll, the former Sheffield Wednesday manager, who did a good job there, but I don't think he's ever managed at this level. What do you think, Simon? Those are the sort of names that I think we would be in the frame for. Maybe it wouldn't be one of those at all, but that's the sort of ballpark. What do you think about
that? Yeah, I mean, there's nothing particularly exciting going on there, is it? I get why, people would say Silva, Glasner, Iraola, but you're absolutely right. Are any of those? Well, we have no history of taking managers out of an existing job. Would any of them want to leave their existing job because they're at great, stable clubs? I find it really difficult to comment overly on that list because I don't know a great deal about quite a few of them, and I don't think necessarily that. Let's take Southgate and Dyche as examples. I don't think they're suited to what we're trying to do. I think Ange was appointed because he fitted the model that they're trying to implement of this attacking possession-based football. So I'm certainly I did some work with Southampton many years ago, and Les Reed, who was their kind of almost like director of football back then, ex-FA, he basically had a list of their next 10 managers because it was managers that they were watching because they knew those managers would suit the system that football club wanted to implement. And it worked at Southampton for many years, and then Les left and other people left, and they try and change things and it all goes tits up and they're back in the Championship. So I would hope, if we're looking at other managers, I would hope we have a list of 5 to 10 managers that we are watching constantly because we feel that those managers fit what we want to do and the style of play we want to play. I don't know if any of the names there fit that model. But I wouldn't just be going, right, Sean Dyche, because I think this is like football of 15, 20 years ago where you lurched from a Sam Allardyce style to an Alan Pardew style to a Sean Dyche style to we'll get this shiny toy in from continental Europe style and try and be different. And you end up with a squad of players that is just a huge mishmash. And every window you're having to sign 10 players, which we do a lot of anyway. And I think that creates a greater scale of mess that you can't get yourself out of. And it takes 10, 15, 23 years to get yourself out of that mess and reestablish yourself. So yeah, I find it really difficult to look at any of those names and think, well, would they suit what we're trying to do? Or is it going to tear it up again and put us in another kind of greater scale of mess?
A couple of the names that aren't on the list. Gary O'Neill correctly should be on there. I see Sergio Conceição. I see referenced. It looks like he's got a job in Saudi Arabia that's going to be announced today. So I didn't put him on it, but he was managing AC Milan recently. I think Simon speaks really well there, Mikey, about the style of play. I don't know much about Thiago Motta, but just reading up on him, he sounds like he plays sort of attacking football in the Postecoglou mould, and I don't know about the others, but Lee Carsley getting mentioned. He's in a job with England, isn't he, in the under-21s? That's why he's not on the list. I can't see us paying compensation to get him out of there. So yeah, I think Simon speaks really well there. What's your thoughts on people? Sorry, Mikey, I'm going on here. People saying it's mad to be talking about new managers. Why are we doing it? Why are we throwing this list up? It's representative of what the wider picture of. If we make a change, then you've got to make a change for someone else. So that's why the list is on the screen. Mikey, what do you think about it?
You know what that list tells me? It tells me we need a result on Sunday. That's what it tells me. Because it may be because I'm hungry, but that list made me feel a bit sick, to be honest with you. So I think none of them really. There's one or two I'm not quite familiar with, if I'm honest. But the 10 or so that I am, oh please God, no. We just need to turn it around. We need to have a performance on Sunday and then come back cracking after the international break, because we don't want to be lurching from one manager to the next. And I don't know, none of those fill me with any sort of joy in my heart, if I'm being honest. So let's crack on with what we've got and get a performance on Sunday and try and go up there and win. Because the reason, like you said, Matt, we put that up is because if they get tanked on Saturday, then we're going to have to do another one, aren't we? Because I think we all know what's going to happen. So let's hope it doesn't happen, because they do not fill me with any confidence whatsoever.
No,
Matt,
no.
You said earlier, like, is it beyond repair? Can Ange turn it around from last night and what happened? I think he can, but I think we're at that critical phase now.
Yeah, I agree.
So there's an element of the pantomime last night. There's obviously a huge element of anger, which, as I say, I completely understand that fans get angry about that situation. That game last night, we've been building up to it for weeks. It's felt like the first couple of months of the season have all been about we're all thinking about going to Seville, and we're all thinking about that first European game at home. It was expensive for people to go, and that always has a bit of a factor as well, of people pay a lot of money to go and watch a football match, and especially at home, you want to see your team win, and then it feels like the money's well spent. And if you don't win, you lose, you go to a game like last night, you're like, Christ, I spent a lot of money on that. And I understand that perspective as well. So it does feel like it's at that critical point now where Ange needs a result. And if we get tanked on Sunday, I don't think there'll be any coming back for him. I think that groundswell of negativity will grow. And as I say, I understand it. You could say quite rightly, if we get a scrappy result, and by that I mean a scrappy defeat that we feel like we've put in a decent performance, probably keeps it about where it is now. If we get a draw, then it may improve it slightly. If we get a win, then it may improve it ever so slightly more. But it wouldn't be out the woods, but it would be, like I say, I think it's a real critical point for him. I don't want him to fail, because I don't want any Forest manager to fail, because as Mikey says, if our manager's failing and our team's failing, then we're all failing, and it's not very nice. I want us to be a winning team and succeed and get back to last season when, as my wife said, it was boring because we were winning every week. So yeah, I think that's how I look at it. He can get out of this, but he is at a real critical point, and it's going to be a difficult few days for him. I'm sure there's been a lot of internal conversations and probably raised voices and everything else over the last 12 hours or so, and it'll probably continue for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think there is a path where he can turn it around, but it's a pretty narrow one, and it certainly involves getting, as Mikey says, at the very least a performance against Newcastle. Then you've got to probably beat Chelsea, or at least get something. Bournemouth away is a really tough game, and then I think you have to beat Man United and Leeds, and just to keep them in a job. It's not a one-game thing now. It's to turn a narrative, it needs to be 6 or 7 games, and even then, it feels like turn back pretty quickly. So yeah, it's pretty tricky. Mikey, you've got to go in about 5 minutes, so we'll just do a quick team for Newcastle. Put that on the screen. You submitted one. I think people could submit almost any list of names here, and you could make a case for it after last night. Sells in goal. We're assuming Murillo is out, by the way, with this. Savona right back, Milenkovic, Morato, Williams, Ryan Yates and Anderson in midfield, Amari Hutchinson and Dan Ndoye on the wings, and then Morgan Gibbs-White in behind Chris Wood. I'm sure people will pick at some of those names, but what's your thinking there?
I'll be short and sharp with it. I think Ryan Yates in midfield. It's Ryan Yates time. Genuinely, it goes back to what I said before. We just need to scrap and fight and win some battles, and he's pretty good at doing that. I mean, there's some things he's not so great at doing, but he's good at doing that. And I think that maybe frees Anderson up a little bit as well. I was impressed with Dan Ndoye last night. I think he did well. I thought Amari Hutchinson for the 10 minutes against Sunderland did well. And the fact that he didn't play last night, he should be fresh. And I'd love to see him start. I think Chris Wood starts. That defence frightens the life out of me. But I just think when you need a bit of scrapping and when you need a bit of doggedness and determination, this is one. I mean, if you're not going to play Yatesy in this game, I just don't think he's going to play at all. And I know he's not necessarily Ange's, in whatever Ange ball is. Does Yates fit in? Probably not. But I need to see something. The fans need to see something. So whether you stick Sangare in there and go in a 3, I just think this is probably made for Yatesy to come and rattle a few and get stuck in their midfield. Their Newcastle's midfield is wonderful. It's excellent. And we need to be right up from it from minute 1. So I'd stick Yatesy in, and I know I'm going to get absolute pelters for that. But I think that's where I'm at the moment. I just want to see us scrap and fight. And I think that team gives us the best chance of doing it. And also I think those wingers can cause their fullbacks problems, especially if Dan Burn plays, because he's not the quickest, is he? So I think Amari Hutchinson or Ndoye, depending on who plays on what wing, can give them a little bit of an issue there. And I think Chris Wood did enough to start. So that's my starting team. I'm not saying that'll get something up there, but at least I think it will scrap, which is what I want to see.
I think the only changes I would make would be I would play Sangare instead of Hutchinson, and I would pack a midfield, and I would put Gibbs-White tucked in from a wing. And people think this is a mad case. I don't think Savona's good enough or ready enough, and I would even play Nicolas Dominguez right back and invert, and even more pack the midfield, which is a very risky move. But I'm not seeing anything from Savona right now to make me think that A, he's ready, and B, a manager trusts him, because they seem to be going out of their way not to start him in matches. So that's a risky team. I would certainly pack a midfield. I think Hutchinson did really well when he came on, but I would throw Sangare in there as well. And I think Dan Ndoye did really well last night. And I can see why you picked Chris Wood. They're massive. I know Chris Wood couldn't defend that set piece against Sunderland, but if Dan Burn starts and you've got Sven Botman, Dan Burn, Malik Thiaw, Joel Linton, Bruno Guimaraes, Voltemada, all on our set pieces, and you see us defend set pieces like an under-11s team, then I think you need every big player you can get on the pitch. Simon, any thoughts on that team, what you'd like to see?
Yeah, you've just put the fear of God into me about how massive they all are again, and we've got to have to defend corners and free kicks and long throws. So yeah, can't wait to go up there on Sunday. I know this is always a controversial thing on this podcast, but I don't look at the comments. I thought Sangare played really well last night.
Second half, he was really good, wasn't he? I thought. Yeah.
You could argue that he should be in this 11. There's also the very well-made point that he doesn't tend to perform that well against real high-quality midfields, which Newcastle definitely have. But maybe if you are, as you say, Matt, packing the midfield to get some bodies in there, you do sacrifice one of those attacking 4 players to get him into the midfield as well. We probably do need to go back to basics a little bit and be a bit dirty, and Ryan Yates being on the pitch for that isn't a bad thing. Like I say, it really feels like a critical point, and perhaps we just need to forego some of this possession-based attacking football that we want to be playing, and just do something ugly for once. Try and get a bit of confidence into everybody, and just take this game as a real one-off, and select an 11 accordingly.
I see Matt D in the chat saying about Cunha at right back. Yeah, I think that's not a bad shout at all. I don't know if he's fit or not. If he hasn't been mentioned for ages. Obviously, he couldn't play in Europe anyway, but that's not a bad shout at all. Mikey, you've got to go in 3 minutes. Any final thoughts, and then we'll just wrap things up.
Yeah, just quickly. How do I summarise it? We need something on Sunday. We need to go up there and show what we're about. Otherwise, there'll be changes and more instability, and then we'll be talking about things which, if you would have said we'd be in this position a month ago, I'd have laughed at you looking at third manager. But things have happened, and we need to move on, and we need a performance, and we need, like I said, the leaders to come out and show what we're about, and for us to try and get behind the club and everybody as a city. But we are on a tipping point, and I'm not going to lie. I genuinely think if it comes to 4 o'clock and we've been tanked, then you'll be asking me to come back on the podcast, Matt, because I think some decisions will be made. But hopefully, we won't get to that. Just want to say thank you to a few people I met quickly just before I go. Before the game started, so Caroline, big podcast fan, lovely to meet, and a few others that came up and said they enjoy what we do. It's cool. So hopefully, we'll be a bit more positive after a good result on Sunday. And a big apologies to Lindsay's auntie, Kay, who came down and is staying with us at the moment from Hartlepool. And I assured her that watching Forest will be a better experience than Hartlepool. And it clearly wasn't, was it, last night? So big apologies, Kay. Hopefully next time you come, we'll be a little bit better. But keep the faith, everybody. It's really tough at the moment, but, we'll get through the adversity as a city and as a team. And we need something. We just need them to step up and show what they're about. And then the fans will get behind them. No doubt about that.
Excellent. We shall let Mikey go, and then me and Simon will wrap things up for the next 5 minutes or so. Lovely to see you, Mikey. Thank you very much.
Yes, absolute pleasure. Thanks, everybody. Enjoyed the comments. Thanks, Simon, mate. See you soon.
Right. That's a good point about, I feel like some of the senior players, again, playing Ryan Yates and Chris Wood and Morgan Gibbs-White, those guys need to deliver a performance as much as they can. Certainly, that's a fair point. A couple of other bits just to wrap things up quickly. There's a letter in the public domain from Savills, who are representing Forest. They've written to the council with a fresh planning application with a plan to take the city ground capacity from 43 to 45,000. So this is different from the Peter Taylor one that's been approved, and it calls for demolition or partial demolition of existing buildings and structures of the Peter Taylor stand, Champion Centre, don't know what that is, Club Shop, Britannia Boathouse, Sims Boathouse buildings and residential properties. And then they would redo the Peter Taylor stand, fill in the Trent End corners, and that would take the capacity even higher, 43 to 45,000 as mentioned. So we'll keep tabs on that one, but it looks like the developments that we all want to see, we're going to have to be patient on that front again to get what we want and the club want, certainly on that front of the City Ground development. Elliot Anderson and Morgan Gibbs-White have both been named in the England squad for their upcoming games, so well done to them. Simon, are you surprised Morgan's in? Honestly, if you were more of a neutral, did you think he'd be in it or not?
I said to a couple of friends this morning that I am a little surprised he's in, because he's not been in brilliant form thus far this season. And you've got the likes of, I guess, Jack Grealish, who would be competing for a spot alongside him, and Jack Grealish has been in better form, you could argue. But I get the sense that Tuchel quite likes to have a settled squad and not change things around too much. I caught a little bit of his press conference before we started. And again, just talking about negative media narratives, Rob Dorset from Sky was going in on Tuchel about why he hadn't selected Bellingham, and is it because he hates Jude Bellingham and Jude Bellingham hates Thomas Tuchel, and he just wouldn't let it go, which I found utterly bizarre. So yes, a little surprised that Morgan's there, but he's great, it's brilliant. I hope it helps boost his confidence. Obviously brilliant that Elliot's there as well, and it is richly deserved because he's been phenomenal for most of the season, and certainly in Seville last week he was the best performer on the pitch, and one of the best performances we've seen from a Forest player for quite a while. So that's great news. Interesting about the stadium. I'm not overly surprised that now they've got a new architect in, they're looking at doing different things and bigger and better things, and that architects probably look at the plans that were drawn up and be like, oh, you can do this, or we'd be confident you could do this as well. And clearly the club have got an ambition to get the capacity in the stadium as high as possible, so we can get all the fans that want to attend games in to watch them. Be good if we started winning some games. That'll probably fill the seats.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, you're right about Elliot. Last night was the first game actually where I thought his levels, even he got dragged into trying, like you said, I think he was trying so hard. Like he was ambitious balls, his crossing, his set pieces, his radar was off. So even he's been affected by the malaise. But him going to Newcastle, his old club, he'll be right up for that. And as long as he harnesses that energy in the right way, Morgan gives a performance. Their fullbacks aren't great. I'm spinning a narrative, but you just never know. You never know. So I'll try and end on a note that makes me think we can get a draw. Although I have been on another podcast and predicted we'll lose, but you just never know in football, do you?
I think you've said about the kind of, those core important players of the squad knowing that they need to put performance in, and I think they do know that they need to put performance in. I think they know that last night wasn't good enough, and clearly they hear what's being sung in the stands and the boos and all of the reaction and the general disappointment from everyone. They feel that, and certainly it doesn't seem like they're anti Ange Postecoglou. What we've heard is they like what he's done so far and they've bought into his methods. So they know they need to put performance in. Just as we've kind of covered a few times, hopefully that doesn't make them overly nervous or try too hard, which results in failure, and they can just calm themselves, putting in a good performance and get us back on track.
Hopefully so. Right, if people have enjoyed this, and I do feel it was a good discussion, so hopefully you enjoyed this one. Do us a favour, hit like, hit subscribe. Do consider membership or Patreon or a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. Join the therapy session in the Discord if you're a member. You should get an email, or if you don't get an email and you're a new member, then get in touch with me and I'll send you the link for the Discord. Simon, any final words? Anything you want to say? Anything you want to plug? I don't know if you've got anything coming up, our glorious banners wise, but anything you want to add?
No, nothing to add, nothing to plug. I am just taking my camera with me as usual. It's costing me a lot less money in film and film development when we're not winning games and not scoring goals, and so that's one slight benefit of it all. But I'm trying to focus a bit more on European stuff this season, so you'll see more from me around those games than Premier League games. But just keep an eye out for everything.
Good stuff. One thing I forgot to say is there'll be a vlog out from the game. I keep doing these vlogs thinking there'll be a glorious occasion. We've never won one of them. Yeah, apart from Brentford, actually. Check out the vlog. That'll be out by the time I get it done, 4 o'clock or something like that. So thanks to those guys for doing it. Big thanks to Chris Aylmer, who is a professional filmmaker, and I think he might have enjoyed doing lots of B-roll footage, as he called it, which I don't even know what that is. Stuff around the edges, I would say. So do check that one out. So thanks very much everyone for their company. Do us a favour and hit like if you haven't already. We'll be back tomorrow with the opposition preview, and if we don't see you then, we shall see you soon.